From rotary phones and switchboard operators to broadband, voice over IP, and now satellites in the sky, 911 technology has had one heck of a blow-up. And let's be honest, we've seen more drama in telecom than a soap opera marathon. That's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a certified NEMA ENP. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday each week, I bring you the latest news and information about public safety and next-generation 911 services and solutions. Today, we'll be continuing our two-part series about the modern-day era of 911 technology. From Hello Operator to Your Call is now traveling through space. If you thought the leap from landline to cellular was big, buckle up. The 90s and 2000s turned emergency communications industries into a huge tech roller coaster, from analog to always on. By the mid-90s, the internet was growing up fast. Suddenly, people weren't just making phone calls, they were logging on. Phones went from bulky bricks or shoulder-strap bag phones to sleeker devices, and households were signing up with CompuServe, AOL, and Prodigy Online. The speeds? Well, let's just say if you could load a picture in under a minute, you basically were a hacker. Enter broadband and voice over IP. The mid-2000s brought the broadband boom and a little disruptor called voice over IP or VoIP. Companies like Vonage showed up with dirt cheap long distance and free calls around the world because, surprise, they weren't carriers, nor were they regulated like carriers. So what's the problem? 911 service wasn't required. And that could be a nightmare if you're stationed overseas, take your IP phone with you, and then need emergency help. Cellular's workaround and VoIP's curveball. Cellular carriers had been working on mobility problems with something called pseudo-ANI or PANI. Think of it as the network telling 911, hey, the caller is over here near this cell tower, and then the PSAP requesting more precise location from the network after the fact. But VoIP broke that model. Suddenly, your home phone could be plugged in anywhere with an internet connection, even if it was halfway around the world. The smartphone tipping point. Fast forward to the late 2000s and the launch of the iPhone, as well as Android devices, changing everything. We went from a phone in your pocket to a supercomputer in your pocket that also happened to make phone calls. Smartphones didn't just connect people, they became cameras, GPS trackers, payment terminals, and social lifelines. And their spread was rapid. Today, smartphone penetration in the U.S. exceeds 80% nationally, with some urban areas and suburban areas hitting over 90% adoption. What that means for most Americans is the ability to connect by voice, text, video, or app. And that connection is constant and portable. It's this kind of saturation that fundamentally shifts the expectations of the public for emergency services. People assume that when they call 911 from anywhere, like their friends and family, the dispatcher will know exactly where they're located. 911 will see what they're seeing, and they'll be able to respond instantly. And to be fair, with location services, wireless E911 Phase 2 and now next generation 911 multimedia were probably closer than ever. But it also means that 911 centers have to handle a lot more than just voice calls. The NENA I2 Band-Aid. Going back to the early days of public safety and VoIP, a fix was definitely needed, and the NENA I2 standard became that Band-Aid. Basically gave call takers at least some way to track these nomadic numbers. But the real challenge? That was the private sector networks and public safety weren't talking enough to each other. Both sides were making assumptions about what was possible and who should solve what on the other side. And it was that slowed next generation 911 innovation to a literal crawl. The long march to NENA I3. In the early 2000s, 5 years dragged into 20. Why? legal fights over patents, corporate rivalries, and the painful process of agreeing on global standards. But we got through it. Today we have the NINA i3 framework being adopted globally that was built for an IP-based, data-rich 911 system that's able to handle voice, text, video, and more. Looking ahead. With wireline, wireless, and even satellite connections, the network's now global. And it's not just people connected. It's everything. Sensors, cameras, wearables, and even your refrigerator if it's feeling chatty. The day of the internet toaster is finally here. Now there's a reference from the past. The next frontier is managing that flood of IoT data and doing it with AI. Earlier in my career, I thought that I'd missed the golden age of telecom and innovation. As it turns out, I was right in the middle of it and even got to help shape it. That wraps up today's episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety. I hope you found the podcast interesting and learned something new. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe so you'll be notified when new episodes are published. TiPS is published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday each week, and if there's a topic that you'd like to hear, just reach out to me on social media at Fletch911. Who knows, maybe your topic will be the focus of a future podcast. This is Fletch. Thanks so much for listening. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. Stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on 911tips.com. That's 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.